Om Tvameva Mata cha Pita Tvameva Tvameva Bandhuscha Saka Tvameva Tvameva Vidya Dravinam Tvameva Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva Shri Dakshinamurti Sudeshikendram Dvaipayanam Sutrakritam Munindram Shri Shankaram Bhashyakritam Yatindram Maddeshi Kanchapi Namami Vidyai Om Namo Brahmadibhyo Brahma Vidya Sampradaya Kartribhyo Vamsarishibhyo Mahadbhyo Namo Gurubhyaha Sarvopaplavarahita Prajnana Ganaha Pratyagarto Brahmaivahamasmi Om Prapanna Parijataya Totra Vetraikapanaye Jnana Mudraya Krishnaya Gita Mritaduhe Namaha. Pranams everyone. So we had completed until now 3 chapters of Bhagavad Gita, apart from the 4 slokas of chapter 13 and the entire chapter of Sloka 15. Did we complete Sloka 15? Oh, Sloka 16. Chapter 16. We had completed 5 slokas of chapter 13, entire chapter of Slokas, chapter 16, and then the first, second, and third chapters. Now, the 13th chapter talked about the values. The chapter 16 talked about Devi and Asura Sampat. It also talked about the values, basically. And then from the first chapter, we started with how Arjuna had got into Shoka, and because of the Shoka, he had gone into Moha, delusion, and where he saw right to be wrong and wrong to be right. And then he did a Sharanagati to Bhagavan, and then Bhagavan started his teachings from chapter 2, sloka 11. And then Bhagavan started the teaching with the highest knowledge, which is Atma Jnana, which was given from sloka 11 to sloka 25. Atma Jnana was given, then followed by Karma Yoga. And then Bhagavan gave the Lakshana of a person who would have attained Jnana. Moksha Lakshana was given. And then Arjuna asked a question as to how a Sthita Prajna would be there. What would be the Lakshana of a Sthita Prajna? What would be the characteristics of a Jivan Mukta? So Sthita Prajna Lakshana was covered in the final slokas of chapter 2. Then chapter 3 was essentially about Karma Yoga. Bhagavan talked about action and how a person cannot be without an action. Action cannot be renounced. One cannot renounce action at all, and there is no need to renounce action at all. And then Bhagavan talked about Karma Yoga, and then in the final stages, Arjuna asked, why would somebody commit a sin although he doesn't desire to commit one? Then Bhagavan talked about desire and how and why desire is so important to understand and eliminate. So with that chapter 3 ended. Now we are going into chapter 4. Atha chaturtho dhyayah Shri Bhagavan imam vivasvate yogam proktavānaham avyayaṃ Vivasvān manave praha Manu Ikṣvāku vebravīt Imam Vivasvate yōgaṃ Proktavānaham avyayaṃ Vivasvān manave praha Manu Ikṣvāku vebravīt. So this chapter is called as Jñāna Karma Sannyāsa Yōga. Jñāna Karma Sannyāsa. Sannyasa means to renunciate. Sannyasa means to renounce. Karma Sannyasa means to renounce action. Then Jnāna Karma Sannyāsa means Jnānena Karmanaha Sannyāsaha, which means to renounce action through Jnana. That is what this chapter means. Jnāna Karma Sannyāsa, to renounce action through Jnana. Now, Bhagavan will talk about this Jnāna Karma Sannyāsa in the middle portion of this chapter, where will talk about the Jnāna Karma Sannyāsa. Again, Jnana Yoga will be brought here. But before that, Bhagavan covers other topics. So the first 3 slokas, especially in this chapter, Bhagavan is doing a yoga stuti. Yoga stuti means he is praising yoga. And which yoga is praising? He is praising both Karma Yoga as well as Jnana Yoga. Basically, he is giving a yoga mahima. In other words, whatever he had given, Bhagavan had given in the 2nd and 3rd chapter, Bhagavan is actually kind of summarizing and closing, saying by how important, glorifying it. And how does he glorify? Shri Bhagavan Uvacha, Bhagavan said, Imam Vivasvate yōgaṃ proktavan aham avyayaṃ. Imam means this. Imam, Vivasvate, leave it, then yogam is there. Imam yogam. Yogam means yoga. This yoga, Vivasvate. Vivasvate means to Surya Bhagavan, to Aditya, the Surya Bhagavan, the sun god. Aham proktavan. Imam Vivasvate yogam proktavan aham. Aham proktavan. I imparted. I taught. Bhagavan says, I did upadesha. Bhagavan is saying that it was he who taught this yoga to Surya Bhagavan. I imparted this knowledge, these yogas to Surya Bhagavan. Surya Bhagavan is called Vivasvān. Vivaha means annam. Vivaha means annam, means food. Vivasvān means also annam. It represents the energy or nourishment that we get out of annam. And food cannot be got without sun. Therefore, Vivasvān is the energizer. Sun is responsible for our food either directly or indirectly, either through fire, which is also a principle of sun. The vegetation should grow, the crop should come, the rain should happen. For the rain should happen, the waters need to be evaporated from the ocean, and for that you need God, sun god. So sun is a nourisher, and without sunlight there is no photosynthesis. And without the plant kingdom, if the sun cannot give, sun is not there, there will be no photosynthesis, and there will be no plants, and no plants means no food. So sun is the food giver, the nourishment giver, or we can say the energy giver. So Vivaha annam asya asti iti Vivasvān. That is how Vivasvān is defined. Then imam yogam aham proktavan Vivasvate. I imparted this knowledge to Surya Bhagavan. Then last word, avyayaṃ. Avyayaṃ is an adjective to the yogam. Imam yogam, imam avyayaṃ yogam. Avyayaṃ means eternal. So Bhagavan said, I revealed this eternal wisdom to Surya Bhagavan. Now, why is this yogam called avyayaṃ? There can be two reasons. One reason is avyaya palatvat. This yogam, this karma yoga and jnana yoga gives us a benefit, palam, that is avyayaṃ, that is eternal. What we get? Moksha. Moksha is eternal. Avyayaṃ is also used to define Brahman. Brahman is also called avyayaṃ. And this yogam helps us to attain this eternal Brahman. and therefore it is called as avyayaṃ yogam. The second reason why it can be called as avyayaṃ is avyaya veda moolatvat. The source of this karma yoga and jnana yoga is the Veda. Vedas are the sources for Vedas is the source for this karma yoga and jnana yoga, and Vedas are eternal, and therefore this yogam is also eternal. Avyayaṃ yogam. So what does the Vedas contain? Vedas contain how one has to lead a life of as a karma yoga, in karma yoga, how must one attain jnana. So together this karma yoga and jnana yoga is referred as yogam here. And this yogam is eternal, avyayaṃ. Why? This teaching has never gone out of date, and it will never go out of date also. It will never become obsolete. Now in this century, 21st century, it is still valid. There have been other sciences that have come in between and have actually become obsolete. But this knowledge is relevant even now. And that is why this teaching is also called as Sanatana Dharma. Now avyayaṃ also means Sanatanam. So here the first line, Aham proktavān imam avyayaṃ yogam vivasvate. I had taught this eternal yoga, eternal teaching to Surya Bhagavan. That is what the first line says. Now what did Surya Bhagavan do? Did he decide to keep the knowledge to himself? So that is given in the second line. Vivasvān manave praha. Vivasvān praha. So Surya Bhagavan taught. Praha means taught. To who? Manave. Manave is to Manu. Manu is his son. Surya Bhagavan taught the same to Manu, which is his son. That Vivasvān's Manu is called as Vivasvata Manu. Vivasvān taught this to his son, which is Vivasvata Manu. This particular period is called as Vivasvata Manvantare. When we are doing Sankalpam, we will say Mama Bhakta Samasta Durdaksha Dvara Shri Parameshwara Prityartham Adya Brahmanaha Dvitiya Pararthe Shvetavaraha Kalpe Vaivasvata Manvantare Ashtavigamshati Tame Kaliyuge Pratame Pade. So Vaivasvata Manvantare. This is Manvantaram is from of Vivasvān. And this Vaivasvata Manuhu belongs to this Surya Vamsha. And what did Manu do? Manur Ikṣvākave abravīt. Manu abravīt. Manu taught it. Manu taught it to who? Ikṣvākave. To Ikṣvāku. Manu taught this to Ikṣvāku. Now if you look at Ikṣvāku, that it is the same parampara for Bhagavan Rama also. Rama Bhagavan is from Ikṣvāku parampara. Or in other words, he is also from Surya Vamsha. So Manu taught it to Ikṣvāku. And Ikṣvāku is considered as Adi Raja. And only from Vaivasvata Manu, all other paramparas came in. So Vivasvān manave praha Manur Ikṣvākave abravīt. So in our tradition, this spiritual teaching has been coming down in two paramparas. One parampara is this parampara, which is the Kshatriya parampara. So if you see Surya Bhagavan, Manu, Ikṣvāku, these are all, Ikṣvāku is the Adi Raja. And then these are all the Kshatriya parampara. Then there is the same teaching which comes in another parampara, which is Brahmana parampara, where you have Sanaka, Sanadana, Sanatana, Sanat Kumara. They represent the Brahmana parampara. So there were this knowledge that was coming in two paramparas. So Vivasvān, Manu, they all represent the Kshatriya Parampara. Now the question could come, why does this knowledge need to come through Kshatriya Parampara? So Shankaracharya asks this question when doing the Bhashyam, and he answers it himself. He says, Kshatriyas, if they have this knowledge, they will uphold Dharma. And it is Kshatriya's responsibility to uphold Dharma. And for them to uphold Dharma, it is very important that they have this knowledge. And only if Dharma is well maintained, the world will be peaceful. And therefore, this knowledge needs to come through Kshatriya Parampara. Now there could be another next question is, why is Bhagavan quoting this Parampara and not the other Parampara, the Brahmana Parampara? Why is Bhagavan quoting the Kshatriya Parampara? Bhagavan is quoting Kshatriya Parampara because here both the teacher as well as the student, which is both Bhagavan as well as Arjuna, belong to this Parampara. And in a society where the Kshatriyas and Brahmanas are protected, that society will flourish. Now, why does Bhagavan say all these things to Arjuna? Why does he say that I taught this to Surya Bhagavan taught it to Manu taught it to Ikṣvāku, and all those things? So that Arjuna knows that this Jnana has come through a Parampara. It glorifies this knowledge. It glorifies this Jnana. He is reminding Arjuna, look Arjuna, you are from a wonderful Parampara. And therefore, you should gain this knowledge. That is why Bhagavan talks about this Parampara, knowledge. Now going on to the second Sloka. Evam parampara praptam imam rajarshayo viduhu sakale neha mahata yogo nashtah parantapa. Evam parampara praptam imam rajarshayo viduhu sakale neha mahata yogo nashtah parantapa. Evam parampara praptam imam rajarshayo viduhu. Evam means thus. Parampara praptam means this which has been traditionally handed down. Thus, this which has been traditionally handed down. What has been traditionally handed down? Bhagavan says imam. Imam means this. Imam means this. And when he says this, he refers to the yōgaṃ. What is the yōgaṃ? Karma Yoga and Jnana Yoga. The knowledge about these sadhanas. Thus, this which has been traditionally handed down. How is that come? Bhagavan said, it was first revealed by me. I revealed it first to Surya Bhagavan. And then afterwards what had happened? Parampara praptam. It has been traditionally handed down, one generation after the other. And now it has been traditionally handed down to who? Who had learnt it afterwards? Bhagavan says, Rajarshayo viduhu. Rajarishi means the royal sages. Viduhu means knew. The Rajarishis, they knew. They knew what? They knew what is dharma, what is adharma, what is the goal of human life, what should be sought after in this world, what should be avoided in this world, what should be practiced in this world, what should not be practiced, what are the sadhanas, what are the vices, how in this world will we be able to attain the state of nirgati, nargati. Nargati meaning good outcome or good goal. How do we ensure that? How are we able to get to moksha? So those are available in this Karma Yoga and Jnana Yoga. Those things these Raja Rishis know. Raja Rishis. Raja Rishi means who? The Kshatriyas, they were the kings, but they were Rishis also. All the Rishis knew this wisdom. All the Raja Rishis. Whom are we talking about? In our own, we would have seen Janaka, Ashwapati. These Rajas, they were as good as Rishis also. They had Dharma as their guiding principle, and therefore they are called as Raja Rishis. And one Sampradaya Guru here gives a meaning for both the words Raja as well as Rishi. Who is a Raja? He says Aishwarya Sampatihi Rajatvam. Aishwarya Sampatihi Rajatvam. A Raja is one who has Aishwaryam. A Raja is one who has wealth. He needs to have wealth because he has to upkeep the country. He has to keep the country rich. He has to keep the country fertile. He has to keep the country plentiful. So the country needs to be wealthy. So the Raja needs to have wealth. And now what is Rishitvam? Rishitvam means Sukshmartha Nirikshina Kshamatvam. Sukshmartha Nirikshana Kshamatvam. Sukshma Artha, in subtle matters. Nirikshanam means observe and understand. In subtle matters, observe and understand. Kshamatvam means that ability or that quality, or what we can call it as a skill. So the ability to observe and understand subtle matters. The ability to observe and understand subtle meanings, nuances as we call it, is Rishitvam. So the king in those days had both these capacities. They had the capacity to accumulate wealth, use the wealth for people, and they were also able to observe and comprehend subtle meanings. So they were called as Raja Rishis. Now if we had studied Mahabharata, we would have seen many stories within itself. So in that Mahabharata, Bhishma, he tells many stories to Yudhishthira and Arjuna. And he tells these stories so that by listening to these stories, the children, which Yudhishthira and Arjuna and all those people, they are able to imbibe dharma. So Bhishma, when he was actually taking care of the children at a young age, he was teaching the various tenets of dharma through stories to the boys. He will teach a tenet of dharma, and then he will give an example of a king or a story of a king who had actually practiced it, so that the boys are able to catch the essence of the dharma. So those kings were Raja Rishis those days. Okay, so far good. But then Bhagavan gives a disappointment in the second line. In the second line he says, Sakale neha mahata yogo nashtah parantapa. Mahata kalena saha. Mahata means long. Kalena, passage of time. Saha, due to long passage of time, yogaha nashtaha parantapa. Yoga iha nashtaha parantapa. That yoga, which is the Karma Yoga and the Jnana Yoga, nashtaha, is lost. Iha, where it is lost? In this world. Parantapa, Arjuna. So Bhagavan is saying, even at the time of Mahabharata, he says, this knowledge has been lost. Now what to tell about now? Even at the time of Mahabharata, Bhagavan says, this, due to long passage of time, this knowledge has been lost. the teaching had disappeared. Even if we can't say disappeared, it had got weakened. Because during long passage of time, less and lesser number of people were interested in this knowledge. So the knowledge has left the lineage of kings. Even during Bhagavad Gita itself. Bhagavad Gita, we estimate about 5,000 years back. Now it has only deteriorated further. The knowledge has left the society. So now people with this knowledge are available only here and there. Only nowadays nobody is interested in Bhagavad Gita and Vedanta and all those things. So Bhagavan says, "O Arjuna, the royal stages, the Raja Rishi knew these, which was traditionally handed down, but due to long passage of time, these yoga is lost in this world." Now, why it had left? Shankaracharya gives a reason why it had left the world. He says, Ajitendriya prapsya. Ajitendriyan prapsya. Jitendriyam means sensory control. Indriya jitah. One who is able to conquer the senses. Ajitendriya means he lacks sensory discipline. One who lacks sensory discipline. Today the distractions are many and they are on our face itself. So whenever there is a lack of sensory discipline, this knowledge will not stay. Even now in the class, as long as we are concentrating, we will be able to understand. The moment the mind wanders, we lose. We will not be able to get the knowledge. Same. So Shankaracharya says, people were distracted, and due to the distraction, this knowledge is lost. Now we'll go to the Sloka 3. Savyayaṃ maya tedya yogah proktah puratanah bhaktosi me sakha cheti rahasyam hetaduttamam. Savyayaṃ maya tedya yogah proktah puratanah bhaktosi me sakha cheti rahasyam hetaduttamam. So here in this sloka, Bhagavan says that yogam which was revealed by me to Vivasvān, first, I had to Surya Bhagavan first, and that which had been known to Raja Rishis through generations, and those Raja Rishis were kind of living their lives admirably. That yogam which is completely lost, not completely, but lost through the passage of time, and that which has been, that has been what I have taught to you, Arjuna. He says, Arjuna, I have taught the same knowledge to you. Where? In chapter 2 and 3. That knowledge which I had taught to Vivasvān, that knowledge which had been handed over down to generations, that knowledge which had kind of diminished, decreased over a piece due to long passage of time, that knowledge is what I have taught to you. Bhagavan says past tense, which means Bhagavan says I have already taught to you. Saeva Saha eva ayam yogaha. Saevayam maya tedya. Saha eva. That very same. Saha eva means that very same. Ayam. Ayam means this. Yogaha. This yoga, this karma jnana yoga, te prokta adyaha. Te prokta adyaha has been taught by me now. Has been taught. He is already putting it as past tense. That very same yoga has been taught by me now. And what sort of knowledge is this? Puratanaha. This is ancient. It is the oldest teaching. It is the most ancient teaching. So what does Bhagavan imply here? Bhagavan says, Arjuna, what I have, to us also, what I have imparted to you is Veda Moolam. I have given such glorious knowledge. So when we actually listen to the Shastras, we do not understand the vastness of the Shastras, the depth of the Shastras, the greatness of our Shastras. This is the most ancient knowledge. This is the most relevant knowledge. This knowledge can never become obsolete. And it is the knowledge which will take us to the infinite. It will make us understand that we are immortal. I am immortal. So this knowledge, this is for us to appreciate and value that knowledge. Puratana. So this ancient knowledge which is in the form of, which is from Vedas. Now remember, Vedas itself was divided into two parts. One is Veda Purva Bhaga, the other one is Veda Anta Bhaga. Veda Purva Bhaga teaches the Karma Yoga. Veda Anta Bhaga teaches Jnana Yoga. And what does Karma Yoga give? Veda Purva Bhaga through Karma Yoga gives us mental purity, Chitta Shuddhi. And Veda Anta Bhaga through Jnana Yoga gives us wisdom. And therefore Veda Purva Bhaga is called as Karma Kanda. Veda Anta Bhaga is called as Jnana Kanda. And the beauty is that even Vedic rishis, they declare that they are not the inventors of this wisdom. This wisdom that is there in the Vedas, that are actually seen by the rishis, they are called as seers. They have grasped this knowledge from the waves that were in that they can actually absorb. And through this knowledge that has once from one rishi, it goes to the other rishi through again a parampara, a Guru Sishya parampara. So the maximum that we can go back is the recording of the Vedas. The recording of the Vedas started when the rishis were able to grasp these waves from the universe and they were able to chant it. But we can never trace the beginning of the Veda where it is. And therefore, Bhagavan calls this as Puratanaha. Puratana Yogaha Maya Prokta. So Bhagavan says, I am one of the traditional acharyas. Bhagavan also did not say that I wrote these Vedas. He did not say. He says Puratana Veda. I am one of the traditional acharyas. So Bhagavan says to Arjuna, this Puratana Yoga, which has been so ancient, which is what I had imparted to Surya Bhagavan then, and which has come through a traditional sampradaya, parampara, that which has actually sort of now disappearing in this world, or has at least disappeared mostly, that knowledge I have given to you, Arjuna. Now the question is, why did Bhagavan chose Arjuna? Many have this question. Why did Bhagavan give this to Arjuna? Why could he not have given to Bhishma or Yudhishthira? Of course, Bhishma and Yudhishthira seem to be more suitable candidates. Or some people claim, why can't it be given to Duryodhana? After all, if he had given this to Duryodhana, there wouldn't have been any war. The answer to all these questions is very simple. Why did Bhagavan give this knowledge to Arjuna? Because Arjuna asked. Nobody else asked for it. So is it that anybody who asks can be given this knowledge? No, Shastra do not agree to it. Shastra says one has to be qualified to ask also. Even if he asks, he has to be qualified. So other person is qualified but doesn't ask, don't give. The person is asking but is not qualified, don't give. Only if the person is qualified as well as he is asking, one should give. And Arjuna was qualified and he asked for it. Because Arjuna, you remember the second chapter, 7th Sloka, Karpanya dosho Bhagavat svabhavah prachami tvam dharma sammudha chetaha yachreyam syanishchitam bruhi tanme sishyasteham shadimam tvam prapannam. Sishyasteham shadimam tvam prapannam. I am your disciple, please tell me. And what is the most important qualification for becoming a disciple, for becoming a student? Shraddha Bhakti. So Arjuna, Bhagavan says, I chose you because you showed bhakti. You are my disciple. What is the Lakshana of bhakti? Lakshana of bhakti is Sharanagati. Sharanagati buddhihi bhakti. We think bhakti is an emotion that I have to be, but this Sampradaya Guru says bhakti is an attitude. The attitude of surrendering oneself to Ishvara is bhakti. So as a spiritual seeker, it is important for us to get that attitude of Arjuna first. It is not easy. We do not want to surrender. We always question. Even after listening to this, we always try to question this, and we always say, this does not work in today's world. Our ego will not allow. We think our knowledge is far superior than what the Shastras say. So our ego will stop us from surrendering. Bhagavan says, Arjuna, you surrendered. You became my disciple. You asked me. And hence I am giving this knowledge, or I gave this knowledge. Bhaktosi me saka cheti rahasyam hetad uttamam iti me bhaktaha. Bhaktosi me saka cheti. Iti, cheti means chaha iti. Iti me bhaktaha. And you are a devotee, my devotee. Cha saka. And you are my friend. You are my devotee and you are my friend. Bhagavan says, you are my friend. So to Arjuna he says, you are my friend, and therefore it becomes my responsibility. A friend's responsibility is to point out the mistakes of his friend, of the person. There is one Subhashitam, Papat nivarayati yojayate hitaya guhyam niguhati gunan pragati karoti. Guhyam niguhati gunan pragati karoti apadgatam chana jahati dadati kale sanmitra lakshanamidam pravadanti santaha. Papat nivarayati yojayate hitaya guhyam niguhati gunan pragati karoti apadgatam chana jahati dadati kale sanmitra lakshanamidam pravadanti santaha. So a true friend, he restrains the person from committing sin. Papat nivarayati. He advises against wrongful or unethical behavior. So these are the 6 essential qualities of a friend. What is a friend? Our Shastras, through Shastras means here, it is part of Hitoyopadesha. It is a classical Sanskrit text, but this is all part of our knowledge base in those days. 6 qualities of a true friend. Papat nivarayati. He advises against wrongful or unethical behavior, number 1. Then yojayate hitaya. He encourages and supports in doing the good or beneficial acts, he tells the friend, do this. This is good for you. You do this dhanam. You go to the temple, you pray, whatever. Then, guhyam niguhati. Guhyam means secret. So this person, he maintains confidentiality. He protects the personal secrets of the person. And then, gunan prakati karoti. Gunan prakati karoti means, gunan means the good virtues. Prakati karoti. He will actually publicize. He will basically tell about his good qualities of this person, of my friend, to others. He is a nice guy. He will talk nicely about you. Then, apat gatam sa na jahati. Apadgatam means in times of distress, in difficult times. Chana jahati, he does not leave you. Then dadati kale, at the right time he gives you help. He provides help, support, resources when they are most needed. So these are the 6 qualities of a friend. Satmitra lakshanam idam. This is the characteristic of a true friend. Pravadanti santaha. The wise sages declare that these are the characteristics of a true friend. So in our knowledge, in those days we used to study, but not anymore nowadays. So Bhagavan here says, you Arjuna are a true friend. You are a friend. Bhagavan is Arjuna's true friend now. And therefore, it is my duty to suggest this solution to you. And Bhaktosi Meta, you are my disciple. And therefore, I decided to give out this wisdom. And what type of wisdom it is? Rahasyam hi etad uttamam. Etad hi. This is indeed uttamam rahasyam. The highest secret. The rarest of rare knowledge. It is the greatest secret in the world. Why it is greatest secret, we will see it later. Because there is a separate chapter for it. Raja Vidya, Raja Guhya Yoga. Chapter 9. It says Raja Guhyam, royal secret. Raja Vidya, royal wisdom. And its royal secret. So Bhagavan says here in this sloka, the very same ancient yoga which has been taught by me then has been taught to you now, because you are my friend, you are my devotee. And this, Arjuna, is indeed the highest secret. There cannot be any greater knowledge than this. That is what Bhagavan says. Which is the greatest knowledge? Whatever Bhagavan had taught in chapter 2 and chapter 3. That alone is enough. It is the highest knowledge. Now, when Bhagavan tells this, Arjuna comes up with a question. Arjuna asks a question. What is that question? Sloka number 4. Arjuna uvacha aparam bhavato janma param janma vivasvatah katameta dvijaniyam tvamadau proktavaniti. Aparam bhavato janma param janma vivasvatah katam etat vijaniyam tvamadau proktavaniti. Arjuna says, Hey Bhagavan, I can understand that you are teaching me now. But when you say you taught Surya Bhagavan in the beginning of the creation, I am not able to swallow that statement. I am not able to understand. Because I know you were recently born to Devaki and we both are of the same age. And that is why you are also able to tell me that we both are friends. Because you remember, Bhagavan has used the word Saka. Then, if that is the case, how can you be the teacher of Surya Bhagavan long ago? This is Arjuna's question. Aparam bhavato janma, param janma vivasvataha. Bhavataha janma, your birth, aparam, is later. Bhavataha janma aparam, your janma is later. Janma vivasvataha param. The birth of Surya Bhagavan is much earlier. Paraha means millennia before, not even centuries. Paraha means millennia, millions of years ago. Because remember, this is supposed to be the beginning of creation. So Arjuna says, the birth of Vivasvān is millennia ago, whereas your birth is much later. Katam etat vijaniyam tvam ādau proktavān iti. Katam vijaniyam. How am I to understand etat, this statement of yours? How am I able to understand? How can I understand this? Now, etat means this statement. Which statement? When Bhagavan said, I had revealed this secret to Vivasvān. Tvam ādau proktavān iti. Iti tvam proktavān. How am I able to understand that you have taught to Surya Bhagavan? Ādau. Tvam ādau. Ādau means in the beginning of the creation. How am I to reconcile this? So remember, here is important. Arjuna has a valid question. We all will have this question. But how he presents it, it shows his respect and humility. Arjuna does not negate Bhagavan. Suppose somebody comes and tells us something that we will not want to, it contradicts our understanding. Then the first thing we'll say is, we discredit that statement, we discredit the person, we tell him that you are lying, all those things. Bhagavan says this, Arjuna does not say you are lying. Because Arjuna knows Bhagavan was only born some time back. And Bhagavan says he had taught this many millennia ago to Surya Bhagavan. So general tendency for most of these people is, come on, you are lying. That's what we say. We do not believe that person. But Arjuna doesn't say that. He did not even say that, Bhagavan, you are contradicting. Because he has got Shraddha in the Guru. And therefore, what does he say? How am I to understand? Please. He is asked for clarification. How am I to understand this? So this is Bhakti Lakshana. Arjuna's Shraddha is evident here. Now, why does Arjuna get this question? That is because Arjuna does not know that the body of Krishna is an avatara of Vishnu Bhagavan. Arjuna does not have the knowledge of avatara tattva. That is what we have to understand. But Shankaracharya says, he does not give explanation that way. Shankaracharya says, in his Bhashya, he says, only the fools of the world will not know that Krishna is not an avatar. Everybody knows. If they are fools, they do not know that Bhagavan or Krishna is not an avatar. But to make sure others understand, Arjuna asks this leading question. So in our corporate presentations also, in certain town halls and so on, people, what they would do, they will place questions So they will get some 2 or 3 people to ask some ready-made questions and ready-made answers they will give. Why there is a reason to show that there is an interaction that is happening. It's not one way. Also, to ensure that the others who may have the same doubt, who may be unwilling to ask the question, but have to get that doubt clarified, they make these questions, they kind of give these leading questions so that their doubts get clarified. In the same way, Shankaracharya says Arjuna had asked this question, though he knows, he wants to hear it from Bhagavan himself, the Avatara Tattva, and therefore he asks this question. Now, Bhagavan, for this question, he answers this from Sloka 5 to Sloka 8. That forms the answer of Bhagavan. Now we will go to Sloka number 5. Sloka 5. Shri Bhagavanuvacha Bahuni me vyatitani janmani tava charjuna tanyaham veda sarvani natvam vetha parantapa bahuni me vyatitani janmani tava charjuna tanyaham veda sarvani natvam vetha parantapa. So, previous question, Arjuna had asked a question, and the question arises out of ignorance to start. We'll believe that Arjuna doesn't know. Now, what is the actual ignorance that is behind the question must be understood by the person who is answering the question. Because any question comes out of a particular ignorance, and the question need be revealing the ignorance or revealing what the ignorance is about. But the answer must be in such a way that it is able to remove that ignorance. So therefore, the response need not be a straight answer to that question. The response can be in such a way that we understand the reason behind that question, and then we are able to clarify it. And only a good teacher will be able to understand the reason or the motive or the actual ignorance behind that question and be able to clarify that question or doubt. That is what defines or differentiates a good teacher from the others. Because some people may not even know to ask the right question. They may ask a question, but they may not be able to clearly articulate what their doubts are. So the teacher should be able to understand the intent behind the question and answer it in such a way that the doubt in the mind of the student is removed. For example, among friends also you could see, somebody coming and asking, you may say, have you eaten lunch? Have you eaten? So this question means, let's go for lunch. That is what it means. Have you eaten? Let's go for lunch. That is what it means. So the answer for it means, I have brought lunch. So which does not answer directly the question. It says, have you eaten? It can be an yes or no. It should be a yes or no direct question answer. But then the answer could be, I have brought lunch. So which means he is able to answer the intent behind the question. Now we will have to understand the intent behind Arjuna's question. Arjuna's question is what? Vivasvān's birth is much earlier, whereas Bhagavan, you were born recently. If so, how could you have taught Vivasvān at the beginning of the creation? Now what is the reason why Arjuna I'm not able to understand it? Because Arjuna is not able to see Bhagavan as an avatara. Arjuna has seen Bhagavan's body to be like any other jiva. So typically what happens, a jiva gets born, he does not know the happenings of the past, as in what happened in my previous janma, we will not know. And therefore this question has come. So Bhagavan, instead of answering directly that question, Bhagavan gives Avatara Tattva from Sloka 5 to Sloka 8. He gives Avatara Tattva. Now, what is the meaning of the word Avatara? And more about Avatara, because this is, if we start, we'll have to break it out somewhere in the middle. So what is Avatara Tattva? We will discuss in the next class. The next few classes we will be discussing about what is an avatara, who is an avatara, how do we identify an avatara, how do we differentiate an avatara with a jiva. We will discuss them in the next classes. Any questions or comments? If not, we'll see again in the next class. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.